The observation station floated silently above the blue and green planet called Earth. For 30 years, the Veleth had watched the humans from this place. They had studied their cities, their wars, their strange customs, and their history. Now, finally, they were ready to make their report. Ambassador Tavarine stood before the great curved window of her office and looked down at the planet below. She was tall and thin, like all Veleth, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that had evolved to spot danger from great distances. Her people were herbivores, plant-eaters who had survived on their home world by being careful and smart. They had learned long ago that the universe was full of predators, and the key to survival was understanding them. Today, she would present her findings to the Galactic Concord Council. Today, humanity would receive its official classification. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 40 different species. Some were small and covered in fur. Others were large and covered in scales. A few floated in special tanks filled with the water of their home worlds. All of them had come to hear about the newest species to reach the stars. Tavarine walked to the center of the chamber and activated the holographic display. Images of humans appeared in the air above her. Men and women, children and elderly, all shapes and sizes and colors. Members of the council, she began, I present to you the species known as humanity. After 30 years of careful study, we have completed our classification. She touched a control, and the images changed. Now they showed human skulls, human teeth, human eyes. Note the forward-facing eyes, Tavarine said. This is a classic predator trait. It allows them to focus on targets and judge distances for attack. Note the teeth. They have sharp ones in the front for tearing meat, flat ones in the back for grinding. They are omnivores, meaning they eat both plants and animals. A murmur went through the council. Omnivores were always tricky. They can adapt to almost any situation. Their history confirms their predator nature, Tavarine continued. They practiced something called persistence hunting. They would chase animals for hours, sometimes days, until their prey simply collapsed from exhaustion. No other species on their planet could match their endurance. They ran their food to death. Now the murmur became louder. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. However, Tavarine said, raising one long finger, we have good news. Our recommendation is to classify humans as Category 3 apex predators. The chamber fell silent. Category 3 was dangerous. Yes, but it was manageable. There were protocols for dealing with Category 3 species. Many such species had joined the Concord successfully. A representative from the Crix Collective raised a claw. Only Category 3? With persistence hunting in their history. Explain. Tavarine smiled. This was the part she was proud of. Humans have domesticated themselves, she said. Observe. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed human supermarkets with meat wrapped in plastic on clean white shelves. It showed humans eating at restaurants where food arrived on plates, already cooked and prepared. It showed children who cried at the sight of blood. The average human has never killed an animal, Tavarine explained. They buy their meat in packages. They do not hunt. They do not kill. Many of them refuse to eat meat entirely and call themselves vegetarians. They have become soft. She showed more images. Humans playing with small pet animals, treating them like family members. Humans protesting against animal cruelty. Humans crying during sad movies about animals. They are predators in their biology, Tavarine said confidently, but they have become prey in their spirits. Centuries of civilization have dulled their instincts. They are no threat to the Concord. The council seemed relieved. Representatives began talking among themselves, and the mood in the chamber became light. What is your recommendation? Asked the council chair, a large being covered in gray scales. Full diplomatic contact, Tavarine answered. Invite them to join the Galactic Concord with minimal restrictions. They will be valuable trading partners, and their creativity will benefit us all. The vote was quick and almost unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the galactic community. Tavarine received congratulations from many representatives as she left the chamber. Her career would advance greatly after this success. As she walked back to her office, a young Velith researcher hurried to catch up with her. His name was Kethval, and he had been part of her observation team for 5 years. "Ambassador," he said, slightly out of breath, "there is something in the data that concerns me." Tavarine kept walking. "What is it?" Every autumn, in several regions of Earth, particularly in the nation called America, millions of humans migrate into wilderness areas. Kethval held up a datapad showing maps with movement patterns. They carry primitive projectile weapons. They wear special clothing designed to blend in with vegetation. They stay in the wilderness for days or weeks. Tavarine glanced at the datapad but did not slow down. "And they are hunting," Kethval said. "Not just a few of them. Millions. Every year. It is organized. It is regulated. They have licenses and seasons and rules. It appears to be a major cultural institution." Tavarine stopped and turned to face her young colleague. She looked at the data on his pad more carefully this time. The numbers were indeed large. 15 million in America alone. More in other countries. But then she shook her head. "It is ritualistic nostalgia," she said. "Nothing more. Humans are sentimental creatures. They like to pretend they are still connected to their primitive past. It is like their festivals and costumes. They dress up and play act, but it does not change what they have become." "But the weapons," Kethval pressed. "Some of these projectile devices can kill at distances of over 1,000 meters. And they practice with them constantly. There are competitions, training facilities, entire media networks dedicated to teaching killing techniques." Tavarine put a gentle hand on the young researcher's shoulder. "You are young, Kethval. You see danger in every shadow. These humans are playing games. They shoot at targets and occasionally kill small animals for tradition. It is not the same as being true predators." She turned and continued walking toward her office. "Archive your data if you wish. But do not worry. I have studied humans for 30 years. I understand them. They are no threat." Kethval watched her go. He looked down at his datapad again, at the images of smiling humans holding dead animals, at the weapons that could reach out and kill from distances no prey could ever sense danger. He filed his report as instructed, and he hoped with all his heart that the ambassador was right. She was not. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Concord. In that time, humans had spread to several colony worlds, bringing their strange culture and endless energy to new planets. The Concord watched them with interest, and sometimes with confusion, but never with fear. Kareth 7 was a green world covered in thick forests and tall mountains. The Concord had chosen it for scientific study because of its unusual megafauna. Giant creatures roamed its wilderness, creatures that had evolved without any intelligent species to challenge them. Scientists from 12 different worlds had come to study these animals in their natural habitat. The human colonists had arrived first, building a small settlement to support the research station. The Concord had specifically recruited families from rural America for this mission. They wanted humans with experience living far from cities, people who could handle the challenges of frontier life. They got exactly what they asked for, though they did not understand what that truly meant. Earl Dawson was 68 years old. He had spent his whole life in Wyoming, working as a contractor and spending every free moment in the wilderness. His hands were rough and his eyes were sharp, and he had been hunting since before he could read. When the Concorde offered him and his family a chance to live on a new world, he saw it as the greatest adventure of his life. His grandson Cody was 12, a quiet boy who paid attention to everything. Earl had taught him to track deer when he was 6, to shoot when he was 8, and to clean his own kills when he was 10. On Earth, some people thought this was strange. On Kareth 7, it would save lives. The research station sat in a valley between 2 mountain ranges. Dr. Vethra, a Veleth biologist, led the science team. She had spent 3 months studying the Kurith Ravagers, the planet's apex predators. They were magnificent creatures, built like bears but faster, with 6 legs and jaws that could crush bone like paper. Vethra admired them from a safe distance, always careful to stay inside the station's protective barriers. The attack came on a Tuesday morning. Later, the security recordings would show exactly what happened. A pack of 7 Ravagers had been tracking the station for days, drawn by the smell of food and the strange sounds of alien activity. They hit the eastern fence just after sunrise, tearing through the barriers like they were made of paper. Alarms screamed throughout the station. Scientists ran in panic, not knowing where to go or what to do. Dr. Vethra froze in the main laboratory, watching through the window as a Ravager, the size of a small vehicle, charged toward the building. Earl Dawson was drinking coffee on his porch when the alarm started. He looked up, saw the Ravagers coming through the fence, and set down his cup. He did not run. He did not panic. He walked inside, took his rifle from the rack by the door, and walked back out to the porch. The first shot dropped a Ravager at 400 meters. The creature was mid-stride, running at full speed, and then it simply collapsed, sliding through the dirt and lying still. Earl worked the bolt on his rifle, found his next target, and fired again. A second Ravager fell, then a third. By the time Dr. Vethra understood what was happening, Earl had killed 3 of the creatures without moving from his porch. He had not spilled his coffee. The remaining Ravagers broke off their attack. They were predators, and predators understood danger. Something was killing them from a distance they could not see, could not smell, could not fight. They ran for the forest. "Grandpa," Cody said, appearing at Earl's side. "They're heading for the North Ridge." Earl nodded. "Go get your uncle and the Hendersons. Tell them we got a varmint problem." Within an hour, a group of 8 human colonists had gathered at the edge of the settlement. They carried rifles and packs with food and water. They wore clothing that matched the colors of the forest. The Veles scientists watched them in confusion. "Where are you going?" Dr. Vethra asked. "Hunting," Earl said simply. "Can't let those things think they can come near people. They'll be back if we don't finish this. But there are only 8 of you. Those creatures are extremely dangerous. Should we not call for military support?" Earl and the other humans exchanged looks. A few of them smiled. "Ma'am," said Tom Henderson, a big man from Texas, "we appreciate the concern. But 8's plenty for 4 overgrown coyotes. We'll be back in a few days." Young Cody was already studying the ground where the Ravagers had fled. He pointed to broken branches and disturbed soil. "They went this way. Moving fast, but one's wounded. See the blood on that rock?" The Veles scientists had not seen the blood. Their eyes were not built for tracking prey. The hunters disappeared into the forest. For 6 days, Dr. Vethra received occasional radio updates from the human team. They were moving steadily, following signs that seemed invisible to everyone else. Cody tracked the pack through dense forest, across rocky streams, up steep mountainsides. The boy read the land like it was a book, finding broken twigs and faint prints that told him exactly where the Ravagers had gone. On the 3rd day, they found where the wounded Ravager had died. The others had eaten it. "Good," Earl said. "Means they're hungry. Hungry animals make mistakes." On the 5th day, they found the pack's den. The final hunt was quick and efficient. The humans surrounded the den before dawn, placed themselves at strategic positions, and waited. When the Ravagers emerged to hunt, they walked into a crossfire that lasted less than 30 seconds. 4 shots, 4 kills. The humans did not celebrate. They simply confirmed the kills, took some photographs, and began the long walk home. When they returned to the settlement, Dr. Vethra was waiting for them. Her hands were shaking as she recorded her observations. "You tracked them for 6 days," she said, "through unknown territory, against creatures that outweigh you by hundreds of kilograms. And you speak of it as if it was nothing." Earl shrugged. "Back home, we call that a good week." Tom Henderson was showing the other colonists pictures on his camera. They were laughing, comparing the size of the Ravagers to deer and elk they had hunted on Earth. Someone mentioned that the Ravagers would make good eating if you cooked them. Right. Dr. Vethra sent her report to Ambassador Tavrine that night. Her message was marked urgent, and her hands were still shaking when she wrote it. "Ambassador," she wrote, "I have made a terrible mistake in my observations. These humans did not fight for survival. They did not act out of fear or desperation. They treated the entire event as a recreational activity. They made jokes. They kept score. The 12-year-old child tracked apex predators through unknown wilderness as if it was a game he had played many times before." She paused, trying to find the right words. "I do not believe we understood what we were studying. These are not domesticated predators playing at their past. These are active hunters who maintain their skills across generations. I believe we need to reassess our classification immediately." She attached the security footage of Earl Dawson killing 3 Ravagers in less than a minute, never once raising his heart rate above resting levels. On the Concorde station orbiting Earth, Ambassador Tavrine watched the footage 7 times. Then she ordered a complete review of all data related to human hunting practices. She had a terrible feeling that she had made the worst mistake of her career. Ambassador Tavrine had not slept in 3 days. The research vessel orbited Earth in silence while she and her team studied data that made her blood run cold. Every hour brought new discoveries, and every discovery was worse than the last. She had assembled the best researchers in the Concorde: xenobiologists, behavioral scientists, military analysts. They worked in shifts, combing through human databases, watching human media, reading human literature. What they found changed everything they thought they knew. "Let us begin with the numbers," said Dr. Methkai, her chief analyst. He was a small Veleth with nervous habits, and his hands had not stopped shaking since the project began. In the nation called America alone, more than 15 million humans purchase hunting licenses every year. This is not a fringe activity. This is mainstream culture. 15 million. Tavrine let the number sink in. That was more than the entire population of some Concorde member worlds. "But surely most of these licenses are unused," said another researcher. "Humans are known for buying things they never use." Dr. Methkai shook his head. "We analyzed harvest reports. The majority of license holders actively hunt. They kill millions of animals every year: deer, elk, wild pigs, bears, waterfowl. The list goes on and on." He brought up images on the main screen. Humans in forests, carrying rifles. Humans in boats, holding shotguns. Humans in tree stands and ground blinds, in camouflage suits that made them nearly invisible. "Note the variety of methods," Methkai continued. "They have developed countless techniques for killing different types of prey. Each method is refined over generations. They pass down knowledge from parent to child like precious family secrets." Tavrine felt sick, but she needed to understand. "Tell me about their weapons." A military analyst stepped forward. Her name was Commander Sathra. and she had spent 20 years studying alien combat capabilities. Nothing had prepared her for this. Human hunting weapons are terrifying in their specificity, she said. They've developed different weapons for different prey. Rifles for large animals at long distances. Shotguns for birds and small animals at close range. Handguns for self-defense against predators while hunting other prey. She showed images of the weapons. They were beautiful in a horrible way, designed with obvious care and precision. Some of their rifles can kill at distances exceeding 1,000 meters, Sothra said. Their prey cannot see, hear, or smell them at this distance. Death comes without warning. One moment the animal is alive, eating grass or drinking water. The next moment it is dead, and it never knew danger was present. This is what predators dream of, Tavarine murmured. Perfect killing. It gets worse, Sothra said. They train constantly. There are shooting ranges in every human city, where they practice hitting targets at various distances. There are competitions where they test their skills against each other. The entire infrastructure of their society supports this activity. Another researcher spoke up. We found media networks dedicated entirely to hunting. Television channels that broadcast hunting content all day, every day. Programs that teach optimal killing techniques. Shows where humans travel to exotic locations specifically to kill dangerous animals. The screen showed clips from these programs. Smiling humans holding dead animals. Experts explaining where to aim for the quickest kill. Advertisements for equipment designed to make hunting easier and more efficient. They have created an economy of death, the researcher said. Billions of dollars flow through the hunting industry every year. Weapons manufacturers, clothing companies, vehicle makers, property owners. All of them profit from the human desire to hunt. Tavarine rubbed her eyes. What about their training methods? How do they create hunters? Dr. Methkai pulled up new data. They start young. We found evidence of children as young as 6 years old being taught to hunt. By adolescence, many human children have already killed multiple animals. It is considered a bonding activity between parents and offspring. He showed images of human families in the wilderness. Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, grandparents and grandchildren, all of them armed, all of them smiling. The knowledge transfer is multi-generational, Methkai explained. Skills and techniques are passed down through family lines for centuries. Some human families have been hunting the same territories for 10 generations or more. Commander Sothra stepped forward again. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect is their patience. She brought up footage from human trail cameras. These were devices humans placed in the wilderness to photograph animals. Some of the footage showed hunters sitting in elevated platforms called tree stands. Watch this human, Sothra said. The video showed a man sitting perfectly still in freezing temperatures. Snow fell around him. His breath made clouds in the cold air. Hours passed in the time-lapse footage. The sun moved across the sky. The man barely moved. He sat there for 14 hours, Sothra said. 14 hours in freezing conditions, waiting for a single opportunity. When a deer finally walked beneath his position, he killed it with one shot. The entire hunt from arrival to kill took 14 hours. He considered this normal. The room was silent. The Veleth researchers looked at each other with expressions of pure horror. This is persistence predation taken to an extreme, Sothra continued. They do not just chase prey until it collapses. They wait. They plan. They prepare positions months in advance, learning the patterns of their prey. They plant food to attract animals to specific locations. They use scent blockers to hide their presence. They become invisible, patient, perfect. Tavarine stood and walked to the window. Earth hung in the darkness below, beautiful and terrible. What about their trophies? She asked quietly. Dr. Methkai cleared his throat nervously. They mount the heads of their kills on walls. The size of antlers, the weight of the animal, the difficulty of the hunt, all of these are measures of status. Humans compete with each other over who has killed the most impressive prey. They keep score, Tavarine said. They turn death into a competition. Yes, and there is something else. Methkai hesitated. We found evidence of a practice called catch and release. Explain. Primarily in fishing, but occasionally in other hunts. Humans pursue prey, capture it, and then release it alive. They do this for entertainment. The capture itself brings them pleasure, independent of any practical purpose. Tavarine turned from the window. Her face was pale. They hunt for fun, not for food, not for survival, for the pure joy of hunting itself. Yes, Ambassador. The room fell silent again. Everyone understood what this meant. The Concord had welcomed a species of recreational killers into their community. They had assumed humanity's predator instincts were dulled by civilization. Instead, civilization had merely refined those instincts into something more efficient and more terrifying. There is one more thing, Commander Sothra said. Perhaps the most disturbing detail of all. She brought up images of humans carrying bows and arrows. Simple weapons made of wood and string. Some humans voluntarily abandon their advanced weapons to hunt with primitive technology. They call it bow hunting. The reduced effectiveness of the weapon requires them to get closer to their prey, to be more skilled, to accept a higher chance of failure. Why would they do this? Tavarine asked. Because it makes the hunt more challenging, Sothra answered. The easy kills bore them. They want difficulty. They want to test themselves against worthy prey. When the hunt becomes too easy, they handicap themselves to restore the challenge. Tavarine sank into her chair. She understood now. She understood what humanity truly was. They were not predators who have been domesticated by civilization. They were predators who had become so efficient that killing had lost its excitement. They were predators who deliberately made hunting harder just to feel alive again. They were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. Prepare a report for the Concord Council, Tavarine said. We need to reclassify humanity immediately. And may the stars help us all. The Galactic Concord Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member world had come to hear Ambassador Tavarine's revised report on humanity. The air was thick with tension and the smell of fear from a dozen different species. Human Ambassador Chen Weilin sat in the humanities section with her small delegation. She was a calm woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. A former diplomat who had spent 30 years negotiating peace treaties on Earth. She did not understand why this emergency session had been called, but she could see that something had changed in the way the other species looked at her people. Tavarine stood at the center of the chamber, her tall frame casting a long shadow across the polished floor. She had rehearsed this presentation 100 times, but her voice still trembled when she began to speak. 3 years ago, I stood in this chamber and told you that humanity was a Category 3 apex predator species, she said. I told you they were domesticated. I told you they were safe. I was wrong. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Category 3 was the official classification. Changing it required evidence of extreme danger. I recommend immediate reclassification to Category 7. Apex persistence predator with hypercarnivore tendencies. The murmur became an uproar. Category 7 was the highest classification in Concord records. Only 2 species in galactic history had ever received it, and both had been quarantined on their homeworlds, forbidden from space travel. Ambassador Chun stood up. This is absurd. On what grounds do you make such a claim? Tavarine had expected this challenge. She activated the holographic display and began presenting her evidence. First, The scale of hunting activity. Images appeared showing license numbers, harvest statistics, economic data. 15 million active hunters in one nation alone. Millions more worldwide. This is not a small subculture. This is a fundamental aspect of human society. We hunt animals, Chun said. For food? For population control. This is hardly unusual for a predator species. Let me show you how you hunt, Tavarine replied. The display changed to show thermal footage from Kurith 7. Earl Dawson sat on his porch, rifle in hand as ravagers charged toward the settlement. The council watched in silence as he killed 3 apex predators in under 60 seconds without ever leaving his chair. His heart rate remained at resting levels throughout the encounter, Tavarine said. Killing did not excite him or frighten him. It was as natural as breathing. She showed more footage. A young boy tracking predators through wilderness for 6 days. Hunters sitting motionless in trees for 14 hours in freezing weather. Men and women crawling through mud and brush for miles to reach their targets. This is persistent predation perfected, Tavarine continued. But it goes beyond mere survival instinct. Watch this. The display showed a human documentary about a man named Larry from Wisconsin. The narration explained that Larry had first spotted a particular white-tailed deer when the animal was 3 years old. Its antlers were good, but not exceptional. Larry decided to wait. For 7 years, Larry tracked that deer. He studied its patterns. He set up cameras to photograph it. He watched it grow from a young buck into a magnificent animal with antlers that spread like tree branches. Other hunters saw the deer and wanted to kill it. Larry warned them away. This was his deer, his prey. In the 7th year, when the deer's antlers had reached perfect trophy size, Larry finally took his shot. 1 bullet, 1 kill. He mounted the antlers on his wall and spent the next year telling the story to anyone who would listen. 7 years, Tavarine said to the silent council. He invested 7 years of his life into killing 1 animal. This was not about food. This was not about survival. This was obsession. This was a predator so patient, so dedicated, that no prey could ever escape once he chose it as a target. Ambassador Chun's face had gone pale. She had not known about Larry. She had not realized that her people did things like this. "You are afraid of us because we hunt deer?" she asked, but her voice had lost its confidence. "I am afraid of you because you hunt for pleasure," Tavarine answered. "I am afraid because you have turned killing into art. I am afraid because when the killing becomes too easy, you deliberately make it harder just to feel the challenge again." She showed images of bow hunters, of people who hunted dangerous game with spears, of competitions where humans tested their killing skills against each other. "You do not hunt to eat," Tavarine said. "You do not hunt to survive. You hunt because the act of hunting itself brings you joy. You are recreational killers. And that makes you the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever encountered." The council erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate action against humanity. Others argued that the evidence was exaggerated. A few species began evacuating their delegations. The council chair struck her gavel repeatedly until order was restored. "We will vote on reclassification," she announced. "Ambassador Chun, do you have anything to say in humanity's defense?" Chun stood slowly. Every eye in the chamber focused on her. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could say a word, the chamber's emergency lights began flashing red. An urgent transmission appeared on the main display. The face of a Concord military commander filled the screen, his scales pale with fear. "Council members, I bring terrible news. The Kreth Dominion has launched a full-scale invasion. 3 border worlds have fallen in the past 6 hours. Our defensive forces are overwhelmed. We are at war. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The Kreth Dominion was a militant empire on the galaxy's edge, a species of proud warriors who had been threatening Concord territory for decades. Everyone had hoped diplomacy would prevent conflict. That hope was now dead. "How bad is it?" the council chair asked. "Very bad," the commander replied. "The Kreth are superior fighters. Our forces are trained for peacekeeping, not war. At current rates of advance, they will reach the core worlds within 6 months." Panic swept through the chamber. The Veleth and other herbivore species had never been warriors. Their military was designed to maintain order, not to fight aggressive invaders. Against the Kreth, they would be slaughtered. Ambassador Chun raised her hand. The chamber slowly fell quiet. "Humanity will help," she said simply. Every representative turned to look at her. Tavrine felt her blood go cold. "We've been part of the Concord for 3 years," Chun continued. "You welcomed us into your community. Now you are in danger, and we will stand with you. Earth will send soldiers. We will send weapons. We will send whatever you need to win this war." The council chair looked uncertain. "After everything Ambassador Tavrine has just told us about your species, you expect us to arm you? To give you weapons and point you at our enemies?" Chun smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "With respect, Council Chair, you should not think of it as arming us. You should think of it as giving us permission to hunt." She turned to look at Tavrine. "You are correct that we hunt for pleasure. You are correct that we have perfected the art of killing. But you made one mistake in your analysis." "What mistake?" Tavrine asked. "You assumed this made us dangerous to you." Chun's eyes were cold and steady. "We do not hunt the helpless. We do not hunt the weak. We hunt worthy prey. Prey that challenges us. Prey that can fight back." She looked around the chamber at all the frightened herbivore species, the peaceful beings who had never learned to fight. "You are not prey," she said. "You are neighbors. But the Kreth? The Kreth are predators who think they are the strongest hunters in the galaxy." Her smile grew wider. "Let us show them they are wrong." The vote for human military assistance was unanimous. The reclassification debate was postponed indefinitely. And across America, in deer blinds and duck marshes and shooting ranges, millions of hunters began receiving messages from their government. Open season had been declared. The Kreth were warriors born. Their culture was built on conquest, their history written in the blood of conquered species. For 3,000 years, they had expanded across the galaxy, crushing every enemy they encountered. They were larger than humans, stronger than humans, and they had never lost a war. When they invaded Concord space, they expected easy victory. The Veleth and their allies were prey species, herbivores who had never learned to fight. The Kreth generals predicted total conquest within 6 months. They did not expect the humans. The first human forces arrived on the border world of Valorix 3 weeks after the invasion began. The regular military came first, professional soldiers with advanced weapons and careful training. But behind them came something the Kreth had never seen before. They called themselves volunteers. Men and women from the mountains of Appalachia, the plains of Texas, the frozen wilderness of Alaska, the swamps of Louisiana. They were not soldiers. They had never served in any military. But they had been hunting since childhood, and when they heard that something dangerous needed killing, they signed up by the thousands. They brought their own weapons, rifles they had used for decades, passed down from fathers and grandfathers. They brought their own equipment, camouflage clothing designed for earth forests, modified for alien terrain. They brought skills that no military academy could teach, knowledge earned through generations of stalking prey through wilderness. General Krethvok commanded the Dominion forces on Valorix. He was a veteran of 12 campaigns, a warrior who who had personally killed hundreds of enemies in close combat. When his scouts reported the human deployment, he laughed. "They send farmers and shopkeepers to fight us," he told his officers. "This will be a slaughter." He was right about the slaughter. He was wrong about who would do the slaughtering. The first sign of trouble came when patrols began disappearing. A squad of 20 Kreth warriors would march into the forest and never return. No distress signals, no calls for help, just silence. Krethvok sent larger patrols. They disappeared too. He sent search parties to find the missing warriors. They found bodies. Kreth soldiers killed by single shots from distances so far that no one had heard the weapons fire. The kills were clean and precise, one shot per target, placed exactly where they would cause instant death. "They are ghosts," one survivor reported, his scales pale with terror. "We never see them. We never hear them. Our warriors simply fall, and when we look for the enemy, there is no one there." Krethvok refused to believe it. His warriors were the finest in the galaxy. They could not be defeated by invisible enemies. He ordered a massive assault on the human positions. 5,000 Kreth warriors advanced in battle formation, ready to overwhelm the enemy with superior numbers and strength. They pushed into the forest and found nothing. No defensive lines, no fortifications, no enemy soldiers, just empty wilderness. Then the shooting started. Bullets came from everywhere and nowhere. Kreth warriors fell by the dozens, killed by enemies they could not see. The survivors tried to return fire, but there was nothing to shoot at. The humans had buried themselves in the ground, covered themselves with vegetation, become invisible against the alien landscape. One group of 12 humans had crawled through a swamp for 40 hours to reach a position behind Kreth lines. They lay in the mud, perfectly still, while enemy patrols walked within meters of their hiding spots. When the assault began, they rose from the earth like demons and attacked from the rear, creating chaos and confusion. The 5,000 Kreth warriors retreated with less than 3,000 survivors. They had not killed a single human. Krethvok studied the battle reports with growing horror. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They did not advance and retreat in logical patterns. They did not hold territory or defend positions. They hunted. Small groups of humans moved through the wilderness like predators stalking prey. They learned Kreth patrol patterns and set ambush. They identified command posts and eliminated officers with shots from impossible distances. They moved by night, hid by day, and killed without warning. A Kreth colonel was shot through the head while eating dinner in his own tent, 3 kilometers behind the front lines. No one saw the shooter. No one heard the shot. An investigation found a human sniper position on a distant hillside, abandoned hours before the discovery. The human had waited in that position for 6 days, eating cold rations and lying motionless, just for one opportunity at one target. They are patient beyond reason, Krethvok wrote in his reports. They invest days or weeks in pursuit of single kills. No resources are too great for them to spend. They do not calculate cost and benefit. They simply pursue their prey until it dies. Morale collapsed across the Kreth lines. Warriors who had never known fear began to panic at every shadow. The forest that should have provided cover became death traps. Every tree might hide a shooter. Every bush might conceal an ambush. The humans did not just kill. They also communicated. They left messages for the Kreth, painted on rocks and trees. Some were warnings. Others were taunts. "Open season," one message said. "Bag limit, none." The Kreth did not understand what this meant, but they learned to fear it. 8 months after the invasion began, General Krethvok was killed in his command post. A group of 12 humans in ghillie suits had crawled through 40 kilometers of hostile territory, moving only at night, avoiding every patrol and sensor. They reached his base at dawn and killed him before his guards could react. The war ended 2 weeks later. The Kreth Dominion sued for peace after losing 60% of their officer corps. Their warriors refused to fight. The fear of invisible death had broken their will to continue. Ambassador Tavarine watched the peace ceremony from the observation gallery of the Concord Council chamber. Human and Kreth representatives signed documents ending the conflict. The Kreth general who signed for his people would not look at the human delegation. His hands trembled as he wrote his name. After the ceremony, Tavarine approached Ambassador Chun. "Your people saved us," Tavarine said. "The Concord owes humanity an enormous debt." Chun nodded slowly. "We were happy to help. May I ask you something?" "Of course." Tavarine hesitated. "During the war, your volunteers called the campaign a hunt. They spoke of the Kreth as prey. They kept score of their kills. Some of them mounted Kreth weapons and armor as trophies." She paused. "Did they enjoy it?" Chun was quiet for a long moment. "Some of them did," she admitted. "The challenge, the pursuit, the successful kill. These things bring satisfaction to hunters. It is difficult to explain to someone who has never experienced it." "I think I am beginning to understand," Tavarine said. "You do not fight like soldiers. You fight like hunters. And for hunters, worthy prey is a gift." The Kreth were worthy prey, Chun agreed. They were dangerous and skilled. Hunting them was not easy. That made the hunt meaningful. Tavarine shuddered. "And now that the war is over? Now that there is nothing left to hunt?" Chun smiled. "We go back to hunting deer and elk and ducks. We go back to our tree stands and blinds and boats. We wait for the next worthy challenge." Her eyes met Tavarine's. "But we remember the skills. We pass them to our children. And if anyone threatens the Concord again, we will be ready." 1 month later, the Galactic Concord formally updated humanity's classification. They were not Category 7. That designation did not fit what they truly were. Instead, they received a new classification created specifically for them. Category H, Persistence Apex Predator, Recreational. A species that hunts not for need, not for territory, not for survival, but for the pure love of the hunt itself. The document containing this classification was distributed to every species in the Concord. It was accompanied by a simple warning: do not become prey. On Earth, in the forests and mountains and swamps of America, life returned to normal. Hunters cleaned their rifles and prepared for the fall season. Fathers taught sons how to track deer through autumn woods. Grandparents told stories about the hunts of their youth. Few of them knew about the classification. Fewer still would have cared. They were just doing what their families had always done, what their ancestors had done for thousands of years. They were hunters. It was who they were. It was what they loved. And somewhere in the galaxy, other predator species looked at the data from the Kreth War and made a quiet decision. Whatever else they might do, whatever worlds they might conquer or species they might threaten, they would never give humanity a reason to hunt them. Some prey was simply not worth the risk. The stars were quiet. The forests were full. And in deer blinds across America, the hunters watched the sunrise and waited for their prey, unaware that they had become the most feared beings in the known universe. They would not have cared if they knew. They had a hunt to finish,